If I said it once, I'll say it again, and this goes especially for you naysayers that might be sitting in the back row over there. Animation is a medium, not a genre. And boy, is this a great example.
Who do you think you are? Really?
We are supposed to be the good guys.
We are.
And today we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Not gonna lie, it took me a minute to get this one out there. Saw the movie, wanted to collect my thoughts, got busy, almost got sick, fought it off, and here we are. Not feeling 100%, but I had to get this off my chest. I had to at least review this before I work through once again the small backlog of film reviews that are to come. So it's the first of two parts that are the sequel to a movie that I unfortunately didn't review on my channel, but I have nothing but praise to say about it. I loved it just as much. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. A film which at the time seemed to come out of nowhere, but was received by almost unanimous critical acclaim. At one point, I think it stated either 100 or 99% it was one of the best reviewed animated films of all time. People loved it, great concept. It does the multiverse concept in theory proud when so many films that attempt to approach the multiverse fall short. In fact, I would go as far as to say the only film in recent memory that challenges the skill and the navigation of the multiverse would be, shocker, Everything Everywhere All at Once. But with the critical acclaim and success of Into the Spider-Verse, it was only a matter of time before a sequel was going to be announced. Announced it was in the form of two parts, but this one being Across the Spider-Verse. So less about things from the multiverse coming into one world, which was kind of how the first film went. Now we have Miles entering the different universes, the multiverses of the Spider-Man and women and creatures and things and all that, as he gets sucked into a very interesting, weavy, wibbly wobbly plot involving different timelines and canon events and all this. Honestly, I stopped watching trailers once I saw like they were showing more and more, which I get it, like marketing, you gotta keep your audience's attention and remind them the film's coming out, but Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, you got pretty close to ruining and blowing your load all over our small screens. Quickly get out of the way. For the first time on my channel, all the time for films in general, I'm sure, but for the first time here, not one, not two, three directors. Funny enough, not the directors from the first movie. The first, Into the Spider-Verse, was directed by Peter Ramsey, Bob Persichetti, and Rodney Rothman, respectively. They did the first one. Funny enough, they didn't return for the sequel, which is funny because this film feels very similar in that it feels like it's directed by these guys again as well. But the torch has been passed over to our current directors, Kim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson. These gentlemen are all very adept and experienced in they're more than qualified for this film. Joaquim Dos Santos, in terms of direction, he's done a lot of work on like DC animated shows and directed 8 episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So already props and points in my book. Kemp Powers, not technically his directorial debut. His previous work, he was the co-director of Soul, which I enjoyed Soul a lot. So you have the heart and soul of your film right there. And then lastly, to round out the whole trio here, we have Justin K. Thompson, who this is technically his directorial debut or his co-directorial debut, but again, large amount of filmography found on IMDb involving animation department for a variety of projects and popular film out there. They're all well qualified and all have a prolific profile. The cast, there's way too much to get into for the cast, but I will say our 2 stars of this show, arguably the stars, I mean, again, as an ensemble, plus ancillary, plus cameos, I mean, it goes on and on and on. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give props to our main character of, Miles, played by Shamik Moore, who, again, kills it as Miles, and of course, the heart flutters, Haley Steinfeld, who plays Spider-Gwen, who is most people, or at least like my Spider crush. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, come on, it's just the aesthetic, it's there. There are a few times that I'll kind of give this little warning before I do a film review, because I try to at least give you some detail and some notion. Hopefully you aren't like me, you have not been bombarded by marketing for this film. Nothing wrong with marketing, but you know, if you see so much of the film, you can start to piece it together. Luckily, they didn't really happen, but still, I would say go into this as blind as possible. I mean, the subtext and context of knowing like general plot point details and kind of a general visual idea of what you're going for, sure, but accordingly so I'm going to keep this as vague as possible, because I don't want to give away or spoil much of anything aside from just some very basics to give you a vibe and for me to communicate how I felt about this film. So I love this. I can almost guarantee it'll be in the top 10, and I would not be surprised in the least if this makes it to the top 5. I am biased because, one, I love animation as a medium. I love and respect and adore all the different forms of animation, and there's so much animation, so well done and painstakingly done in this film. And I do like Spider-Man. Do I love Spider-Man? Maybe not, but for a guy who doesn't absolutely adore Spider-Man, I did grow up a lot with Spider-Man, and I really do enjoy it. Sometimes I love it, sure, but I know a surprising amount of Spider-Man lore in terms of Spider, Miles, the multiverse aspects of it, the Rogues Gallery. The more and more I see, like, you know, for the new games coming out and new movies and all that, I know a surprising amount about Spider-Man. Going into it, I wanted it to be good. I was worried at first that I was biased when I walked out, but then I remembered there's plenty of films that I wanted to be good that actually didn't end up being altogether too great. So, you know, I think that my opinion is pretty valid, but coming out of this. First of all, for a movie that is, I believe this is the longest animated film ever made, period. It currently clocking in at 2 hours and 16 minutes, so just shy of 2.5 hours. This movie flew by in the best of sense. The pacing on this bad boy felt like an hour and a half passed, felt like an hour passed. This movie came and went, and it was great, and there's very few times where I felt a film fly by as quick as this one did, and in the best of ways. Again, I'm not going to reveal plot details or anything like that, but this was just, it was so great. What I love, I think, the most about this film is that, and they kind of, some articles allude to it and kind of went into this a little bit. So the whole plot of this thing is that, like, you're going through different multiverses, different universes that all have their own variations of Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, spider creatures, different stuff like that. And to highlight and accentuate this, in the first movie, we were only ever really in Miles' universe. So we had the primary animation and art style, and then the characters that came in all had their own art styles. Now that we go to other universes, every universe has its own unique art style. Everything from like pastel watercolors and that bring the heat and warmth and coldness and of emotions and scenes and all that, to like even more comic booky, to like, I mean, they spoiled it on articles and all that, but hell, like Lego, or even like all these different universes and everything. It's great, and each universe is represented by its own distinct animation style. The characters, especially when you get into the main hub where Miles is like dragged into this whole thing and finds out about the different multiverses and all these timelines and whatnot, and you have this plethora of like Spider-Man and characters that are all converging in this one area. Every single one, like, it doesn't feel like just a bunch of generic CGI copies or just like copy and paste of with only minor variations. There's a plethora of unique character designs and unique animation styles, and again, it's the detail, it's the visual differences between all of them, and it is massive and impressive and like shocking and surprising. There's going to be plenty of video essays in the future of like still by still breakdowns of every single little hidden Easter egg and moment and character and all this. Like, even as the film was going, you can like catch a lot of them and notice a lot of them, but you can easily, you know, I don't want to say get lost, that has like a negative connotation, but you can like fall behind in just the plethora. There's just a lot to draw from. Voice acting, as with the first one and this one, Everybody brings their A game. It's all killer. I have no complaints. The voice work is there for our main characters, for any of the antagonists, for the background, ancillary, the smallest of parts in this. Like however they're played, if it's for laughs, if it's for drama, whatever it is, everybody brings their A game for the voiceover, in my opinion. The characters are all unique. They all have their own motivations and all that. Everything makes sense for me. I saw the reviews coming out, and the reviews have been mostly perfect and positive, but a complaint that I saw from like IGN and from certain reviewers was about like the plot and the story. Basically, they were saying there wasn't enough narrative cohesion to hold up all, like there was beautiful animation and it's a very pretty, well-made film, but people were going as far as to complain that there wasn't enough like narrative cohesion to be able to back that up. Perhaps some of their complaints are valid in their minds and other people's eyes, but me personally disagreed. I thought the story was not too convoluted, it was not too weak. I thought the story was on the contrary very compelling. I thought I followed it perfectly fine. Did it get convoluted? Sure, in that we're dealing with like different timelines and canon and multiverse theory and all that. But if you can follow everything everywhere all at once, you can definitely follow this like across the Spider-Verse. It's not too convoluted and in my opinion not lacking in narrative or like character narrative at all. And I will say this is the closest thing I'll give to a spoiler like in general. So there's a character I saw in the trailers, Spot. I thought he was going to be played off like a joke or whatever. I thought it was just going to be kind of like a throwaway character. It's something akin to the likes of MODOK or Adam Warlock in recent memory. But I was very pleasantly surprised to see that this character got the reverse MODOK treatment, basically. And by the time that certain scenes happened, there were some shivers and goosebumps down my spine for sure. I always get on my soapbox in saying that animation is a medium and not a genre. It is to be a respected form of art and equally of cinema, whether in television, whether in movies, whether in games, anything like that. And this is a prime example. Even with the delays, like I completely understood and accepted the delays when they were like announced for this film, and I always believe that the delays don't make me upset. Like take all the time you need to make your finished product, and the extra time that went into this movie really shows. Like it's love and passion and creativity abound go into this film, and that's why I love it as much as I did. Hell, a friend of mine that I went with went as far as to say this might be one of the best animated films ever made, period, which is a hell of a statement considering the excellence that already exists out there. But I don't know if I agree 100%, but I believe an argument could be made. And maybe I'm just blowing Spider-Man's little spider peanut right now. Maybe I'm riding a hype train, but I like to think that like I got some decent qualifications, and my opinion is pretty good at the very least, and I'd go out on this limb any day of the week and defend this movie. I think that it's a perfect film. I think that the first one was also perfect. Like that's just what Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a 5 out of 5, easy. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is a great sequel that does what a sequel is supposed to do and builds upon the foundation set by its predecessor. Builds upon it and expands and adds to it. It does all those things. We get more character development from our main characters, more development from some of the ancillary characters, more characters added, not only more universe added, more universes added and explored. Animation is pumped up and just, is it a little bit fast sometimes? Sure. That's the only complaint I can muster, is that like the movie does move at it's a pace. It's a pace. Could they have slowed it down like a tiny bit? Sure, but personally, for my brain that's already going a million miles an hour and it's OCD and sometimes ADHD, and I can keep up with the speed no problem. So for me, I didn't have an issue. I could see how people would. I personally didn't. And maybe my bias is kicking in right now, but I'm not going to dock the film because it's fast. Yeah, I have no complaints about this film. It's one of my favorite films this year. I can't wait till I get to see it again. I got so lucky, got to see it in IMAX. I hope to see it in IMAX one more time before the new Indiana comes out. But yeah, I cannot recommend this film enough. If you don't like animation, I guess avoid it. If you don't like Spider-Man, you just can't stand it, you think superheroes are overrated, sure, avoid it. But if you want like compelling story, compelling characters, funny, dramatic, fun, beautiful, like beautiful animations. You could take almost any still from this film and it could be like there's some works of art in this film. Like the stills are paintings, are great animations, the blending of different animation styles, and just the creativity, so much creativity that wins me over any day of the week. You already know where I'm going with this. End of the day, easy W. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I give it a solid 5 out of 5. Solid 5 out of 5. The only variation I thought about was giving it either a high 5 out of 5 or a low 5 out of 5. Because, like, I mean, I did love it. I did love it. But, again, if the only possible thing I can come up with is that the pacing could be a little tiny bit too fast sometimes, then that's the one thing that would hold it back from a high 5 out of 5. But I give it a solid 5 out of 5. I loved it. This is one of those movies where I personally believe, in the MovieMan opinion, it's perfect. I cannot wait until late March of next year. Part 2 to come out. Different title though. So Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. The part 2 and conclusion. So I don't know if it's going to be just a trilogy contained and that's it. I don't know if they're going to keep making more after this, but it was so much that they couldn't make like a 4-hour Spider-Man movie. They had to split it into 2 in an Infinity War Endgame kind of way. Holy shit, what a movie this was. What an experience, what a ride. I loved it. Watch it. I'm going to watch it again. Yeah, 5 out of 5. That's all I got to say about that one. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. And goodbye, travelers.